You may not think intonation matters, but it's a big part of how people speak and understand. There is a way to learn why and how to match it. When you understand the rules, you'll have more confidence when you use them. This video will teach you the most common intonation patterns and how to use them confidently in American English. All right, so I am going to go through a lesson that I do very frequently with my students at Pronunciation Pro. We're going to go through all of the rules of American English intonation. So intonation is sometimes referred to as tone, and it's the tone or intonation, or the rhythm of American English. Now, when our voice goes up and when it goes down, that's tone. And we give a lot of meaning to our messages in American English based on tone. Same as other languages, tone is such an important part of the rhythm of any language. So let's go through American English intonation rules so you have a better idea of how to use them appropriately so you're communicating the right message as you're speaking American English. So I'll be referencing this worksheet that I have with my students so that we can go through it together and go through all these rules. So let's first talk about falling intonation. So falling intonation happens during commands or statements or WH questions. So the pitch jumps and then it slightly falls on the last word of the sentence. So for an example, a command would be, go sit down, come over here, eat your food. Eat your food. To kind of hear that falling intonation. So falling intonation is also used in statements. So her boyfriend came to dinner. Her boyfriend came to dinner. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall. Okay, do you hear that falling, that jump up and then falling? Okay, next is WH questions. What's your name? What's your name? How long have you worked here? Worked here. Kind of hear that jump up and then fall. Where did you go on vacation? Vacation. All right, so let's talk now about rising intonation. Rising intonation happens when there's a yes or a no question and statements of surprise. What happens is that the pitch falls slightly, then jumps up on the last word of the sentence. So a little bit opposite than the falling intonation. So rising intonation drops a little bit and then it comes up at the end of the sentence. So let's practice this in yes or no questions. Is he on his way? Is he on his way? That rising intonation is really, really important here because if you rise in your intonation, it communicates that yes or no. So when you're rising in that intonation, our listener is expecting to have to answer yes or no, okay? But if you fall in the intonation, then it's more of that command or statement. Okay, so let's get that rising intonation here on those yes or no questions. Is he on his way? Is the play on Friday? Friday? Do we want to sit here? Do we want to sit here? Versus, we want to sit here. We want to sit here. Okay, so we want to sit here is asking something. We want to sit here is just telling us something. So very frequently there is this tendency to rise when it's more of a statement. So we really need to be aware of the rising intonation at the end of those sentences really communicates more of a yes or no question. Next, we have the statement of surprise or disbelief. When we're like, I can't believe this happened. All right, that's when we can rise in that intonation. You got an A on the test? You got an A on the test? That's amazing, right? You're having a baby, okay? You're having a baby? Do you hear that tone change? He broke his leg, okay? Surprise, disbelief, I can't believe it. All right, that's when we want to go up in that intonation. Other than that, we fall in our intonation, okay? So yes or no questions, or if you're surprised at something. All right, have you noticed this rising and falling intonation pattern as you've been listening to American English or practicing American English? How do you do it in your spoken English? Have you become aware of this in your own spoken English? I want you to comment below and let me know kind of what has been your experience and has this been a challenging thing for you? All right, let's go on and talk about choice intonation. So choice intonation happens when we have a question with or a statement with and. Okay, what happens is the pitch rises on the first choice and falls on the second choice. Okay, so questions with an or. Do you want 1 or 2 donuts? Do you want 1 or 2 donuts? Okay, rising and falling. Do you want 1 or 2 donuts? Would you prefer beef or chicken? Okay, so this intonation really communicates to your listener, here, I'm giving you a choice. Do you want this one or this one? This one or this one? Okay, listen for that as you're listening to other American speakers so that you can kind of pick up on that cue that they're giving in their intonation, and then match that as you're asking for, this or that, this or that. It really helps that communication. Next, let's talk about statements with and. There is dirt and oil all over my carport. There is dirt and oil. So same thing as this or that, dirt and oil, dirt and oil. And usually that and gets reduced to n, dirt and oil. Okay, I found a nickel and a dime, nickel and a dime. Okay, nickel and a dime. Chips and salsa are my favorite. Chips and salsa are my favorite. Okay, so practice that intonation. See if you can kind of rise and fall on those. Next, we're going to talk about list intonation. Okay, list intonation is when you're naming off some items in a list. Okay, your pitch rises on each of the items and then is going to fall on the last item. So, do you like baseball, soccer, football, or tennis? So, up, 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 down. Okay, do you like baseball, soccer, football, or tennis? Should we invite Kim, Tom, or Ted? Okay, do you hear that drop at the end? That tells us the list is done. So if you said, should we invite Kim, Tom, and Ted, then your listener is going to be like, and what else? Okay, it kind of leaves them hanging there. But when we pull it down at the end, that then tells them, okay, the list is over. The list is done. Now, what do you think? So as I'm talking about these rules, I want you to consider that, your personality comes along with it, and there's levels of excitement or emotion that come with using intonation. Now, these rules that I'm talking about right now are just kind of the basic rules, and then we can get into more of that personality and how we use intonation for emotion later on in this video. The last rule of this basic intonation is double rise intonation. So this happens with questions with and. Okay, the pitch rises on both of the items. A lot of these are yes or no questions as well, so we're kind of rising at the end anyway. So it kind of mixes two together. So for the first sentence, would you like ice cream and cake? So up and up, okay, and also a yes or no question. Can I get you any salt and pepper? And number 3, let me go over this other sentence. Do you want sugar and cream in your coffee? Okay, so there you can see how it's double rise and then rise again for the yes or no question. Do you want sugar and cream in your coffee? So there's a lot more to know about intonation and how to use emotion as part of your intonation pattern. But let's talk about your personality, okay? So your personality really comes out in your pitch levels. And so like more of a quiet or reserved personality is probably going to have more of a low and quiet pitch. If you tend to have a little bit quieter voice or lower pitch, that matches more of a personality of being shy or more reserved. Now, a mid-range pitch tends to be more friendly and confident, and a high and loud pitch gives the impression that you are very outgoing and have a very exciting personality. Okay, so I understand that your personality needs to kind of match that pitch, but as you are projecting your voice and using more pitch, you are going to come off more confident in the way that you speak. So if you tend to have that lower pitch and lower range in your pitch, work on projecting your voice a little bit more so that you can be more clear and sound more confident when you're speaking English. So I know this was a more technical video and a lot of the rules of intonation, but hopefully it was helpful for you. When you really understand the rules of American English, it can bring more clarity and confidence in the way that you're speaking. So subscribe to my channel to get more of these videos and much, much more. And if you want to be understood and be more confident in your spoken English, check out this next video. How long does it take to get an American accent?